For those of you, if you have the book, you can follow along. I'm skipping the introductory chapter, but I will be starting with chapter 1. So again, for Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, we're going to be doing this daily. We're going over Atomic Habits by James Clear. I think it's the most phenomenal book to read if you are wanting to implement change in your life and you're wanting to understand not only how you got to where you are now, but how to change that around to get to a better position moving forward. It is one of the most foundational books that kind of nailed what I already instinctively do and what I teach my clients how to do. And he was just able to eloquently put it into words. So it is 7 o'clock. We're going to get started. For you, those of you that do not know me, my name is Yashika, and I'm the founder and CEO of Yashika's Intuition. And I founded Yashika's Intuition because after a series of unfortunate events that I described over on the About Me section of my website, I had to build my life from the ground up. But what I found out when trying to rebuild my life from the ground up is that I didn't know who I was. And so because I didn't know who I was, it made it hard for me to see where I needed to go. And so I was left not only without a home or without my marriage or without a secure job in a new city where I didn't know anybody. But I also found out that when all of those things were gone, I really didn't know who I was either. So I had to start all over. And it was a journey that I took step by step in order to get to where I am today. And I share that knowledge with my clients, with some of you ladies that are in the Personal Mastery membership, with my private clients, because I feel like a lot of times the reason why we're not getting where we want to get in life is, number one, because we are disconnected from what it is that we want and who it is that we truly are. But then number two, we don't quite leverage everything that we have at our disposal in order to get there. And a lot of times it's because we haven't been taught what we can leverage in order to get to where we want to get. So this book, Atomic Habits, to me is a great foundational start for us to start implementing these little changes that we can make, and by the end of the year start to be where we want to be. This is not about having 2021 be that year where you keep saying that your life is going to be different and then you don't do it. I hope to empower you and motivate you that you have access to everything that you need to live a better life. And once you can learn to trust yourself, and once you can learn to draw through that inner power that you have inside of you, and then tap into an outer power, an invisible power that helps create miracles, you can have the life that you want to have. You just have to learn what you specifically need to learn to get there. So that's just a little bit about me for those of you that do not know me. The second thing that I wanted to mention really quickly is I want this to be interactive. So if you have any questions or, comments, make sure you leave them in the comment box, especially for those of you that are on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube. I can't see you if you don't comment because I'm multi-streaming it through one platform. So you have to comment for me to be able to see you. All right. So that's the number 2 thing that I wanted to mention. So we're going over Atomic Habits by James Clear. It is a very easy book to read. It is jam-packed full of gems and information. So if this book has been on your book list, I would encourage you to get it. However, you do not need it for the purposes of this discussion. I am going to point out some of the key things that I think are important for you to understand if you are wanting to make change in your life and you want to understand how change management works in your own personal life. So the book starts off in chapter 1 with him explaining that there was this British cycling team that was performing less than optimally. And in order for them to start to perform better, there was a new coach that was brought on. And this new coach, instead of, just trying to make these big, massive changes and disrupt the hard work that these gentlemen had already did on the cycling team, especially because they were already at a level where they were pretty good, but they just weren't quite clicking. He decided to look at every little element of cycling, what cycling entails, and through that, make incremental changes in the various things, such as maybe the bike position, the seat, what they ate, like little things like that, to see what those things what kind of outcomes these changes produce. And what he found was that these little small incremental changes, while they may seem minute, while they may not seem like these big dramatic things that we all think that we have to do in order to enact change, he found that these small little changes multiplied, they compounded to make these big changes that really changed the performance of this team. And they really started to perform very well. They started to produce some world-class athletes and even won some some Olympic medals and everything. So the first thing that I wanted to point out for today, when we start to get into this conversation about how do we create habits in your life, I want you to come to this discussion, this daily discussion, with the understanding that you often may think that the reason why you don't have what you want to have in life, or maybe you think that the reason why you're unable to make change is because you find it to be overwhelming or you find it to be confusing. I want you to stop that and just park that to the side, because it doesn't have to be that way. The number one thing that I like about this book is that it helps you to understand that you don't have to have it all spelled out and you don't have to bite it all off at the same time. This is a very cliche metaphor, but the only way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. So what you are doing is you are tackling these changes that you want to make little by little. And specifically, if you were going to do it in this manner, you would only make 1% changes, little changes, one at a time. What this will allow you to do, though, is by the end of the year, say you started in January and you made a 1% change every day, by the end of the year, you would be at a 30% change. And that is a huge, dramatic change for such a minimal amount of effort that you're spending in order to make that change. And that's the power of, well, I'm just going to call it compounding interest, compounding investments, because money works the same way. People often discount this because they feel like if you're making these little changes in your diet, in your finances, in the way that you show up in your relationships, and the changes that you want to see in your life, these small little changes that you're making, you often feel like they're not going to make a difference. And I'm here to tell you that they are. In fact, if you start to make a small little changes, 1% changes in an area of your life that you want to change, you're going to see that that takes off much faster than if you didn't do anything, or if you continue to make these more insidious decisions that you make that are not in alignment with the things that you want to create in your life. If you continue on the path that you're on, where you're not moving forward and getting what you want out of life, you end up staying stuck and you end up staying stagnant. And in fact, you can actually start to get worse every day until where you don't make any progress at all. This is important because for some of you that have this analysis paralysis, because you think that what you want to do needs to be this big, overwhelming hoorah, and so you don't do anything, you're going to find that it is exponentially worse for you to not do anything than to do something, even if the something that you do is small. Another thing that I want you guys to also understand when we start to move into this discussion for these daily lives is that you also sometimes will feel like when your world starts to fall apart, like mine did, that moment when my world kind of fell apart, that was the big moment, right? But what I didn't realize, and maybe what you don't realize in the problems that you're experiencing, is that in all actuality, these bigger problems or explosions or things that we have in our life are oftentimes due to small incremental things where we didn't trust ourselves, or we didn't listen to our gut, or we went against what we knew was right. And maybe for those of us that are on a health journey, we chose something that was unhealthy, or in a relationship, we ignored a red flag, or when we're working on our goals, we chose to stay in bed or watch TV or do something else other than what it was that was going to allow us to honor ourselves more deeply, or also to just move forward in our goal. And so a lot of what you're experiencing right now is not because of a decision that you made today, or maybe not even a decision that you made yesterday. It's usually a series of small little decisions and missteps that have happened, and those things start to compound over time to where the impact of those small decisions, while they don't matter when you do them, like, if you stay in bed one day and watch TV, that's not a big deal. But as you continue to make decisions like that, then you're not going to get toward being healthy. And pretty soon, a year of that, a month of that, 2 years of that, you start to find, oh, you gain weight, or you have high blood pressure, or you have diabetes, or you just feel lazy, lethargic, depressed, whatever it is, it compounds. So you need to understand that. You also need to understand the way that materialization or manifestation works. Ladies that are in my personal mastery membership, that is what we will be focusing on for the next 3 months. We'll be focusing on manifesting, quantum leaping, controlling our thoughts and emotions in order to manifest better. But for those of you that are not in the membership, just know that you have to understand that what it is that you're experiencing right now in your life is not due to something usually that you have decided right now. The outer world takes time to materialize. If you have a thought that you want to paint a picture, it takes a while before that thought that you had becomes a piece of art on a canvas. So you have to understand that what we are experiencing in the here and now is usually due to something that we did a day ago, a week ago, a month ago, a year ago. And this is helpful because when we are going through this book and we decide that we want to make changes in our life, we may beat ourselves up because we feel like we are putting in this effort and we're not getting reward on the effort. When you have to understand that you will get results. If you are doing something, the 1% something that you need to do that's going to move you in the right direction, you will get results. So you have to keep at it, but you have to know that if you don't see what you want right now and you've already been putting in effort, it doesn't mean that you're not on the right track. That frees you up from being discouraged as you take these little micro steps on your goal. And it also helps you understand that it is in your power to change. And whatever it is that you're experiencing today is not because something is messed up today. It's probably because something was messed up previously, and we can fix that. But just like when you start to work out and you start to eat right, when you step on a scale, say you made the decision yesterday and you step on a scale today, everything is not going to be better. You're not going to have lost 10 pounds and all your levels and all that kind of stuff is going to be normal. No, it's going to be a lagging measure, because what's going to happen first is what? Your metabolism is going to change. The way that your cells take nourishment from your dietary changes is going to, change. All those things are going to happen underneath the surface first before you can even see a change when you step on the scale. And that's how life works in general. So understand that the outcomes that you experience today, that you experienced yesterday, and that you experience tomorrow are going to be lagging measure of habits and decisions and things that we have had previously. So if you want to now predict where you're going to move forward in the future, guess what you look at? You look at what are the decisions that you made today? What are the habits that you're doing? How are you moving forward towards the things that you wanted to accomplish? And if you can honestly say that you are not doing what it is that you need to do, then that is going to be a predictor of what you are going to experience in the future. And my hopes for us in this 30 minutes that we spend together is for us to start to nip these things in the bud and be more self-aware, so that we can start to make better decisions, incremental decisions on something that it is that we want to accomplish. So while we are going to move on in this chapter, I just want you guys to leave in the comments, like, let's just say for the next 90 days, quarter 3 of 2021, what is something that you want to focus on, what you want to work on, what you're trying to create change on in your life? It could be financial, it could be mindset, it could be a relationship type thing, it could be career. I just want to kind of get a gauge for what you all are working on so that if I'm able to help give you some guidance and direction, I can help you with that. So leave in the comments what you're working on. Another thing that he talks about in this first chapter of the book is that your habits can work for or against you. So I've kind of painted a picture of what happens when you do or don't make change, but some of the positive things that can make exponential changes in your life are productivity. So while we think that we have this to-do list and we accomplish everything on our to-do list, and maybe in some of those instances we accomplish them faster than we would have, what can help you to start to gain these quantum leaps and these incremental shifts and what it is that you experience is learning how to, maybe you could do one more extra task once a day, or just do a little bit more, or maybe you want to do 2 loads of laundry. What would happen if you did 3 loads of laundry? Little simple things like that. Maybe you go work out and you do 10 reps. What if you did 12 this time? It's those little changes that are going to be things that, while they're not going to stress you out or make you feel overwhelmed, they will add a positive impact to the growth that you experience towards your goals or towards your desires. And the same with knowledge. A lot of people discount knowledge, especially college knowledge these days. It's not cool for you to want to go to college and get a degree, but if you do knowledge right, knowledge is something that will pay you back exponentially if you know how to put that knowledge and apply it into your life. Nobody is going to teach you how to do that. You're going to have to learn how to take what it is that you read or see or consume and put it into action in your life. And if you can do that, you're going to find that as you continue to learn throughout your life, you are going to be able to make these exponential gains because you are increasing your knowledge. And I see Jim says, stop calling me out on my BS. Sounds like she's talking right to me, and me too. We all struggle with this at some time or another. I remember we were having this very deep discussion in the self-love workshop that we had a week ago in the personal mastery membership. And we were talking about how a lot of times we get discouraged because we feel like we're not moving forward on our goal. And one of the number one reasons that I've seen with my personal clients, my private clients, about why they feel that discouragement, it's not because they're not moving forward. It's because when we make that audit and we actually really are putting some awareness and introspection on if we are moving forward toward what it is that we want to accomplish, we find out that if we wanted to be honest with ourselves, we're not doing what we could do to move forward. And so that's why I'm here. It's not to call you out. It's to get us all on the same page to actually moving towards something better in our life. Jim says repetitive situations and emotions. Yeah, that's a big one. A big one that can negatively compound. Think about it when you're investing money in the bank, when you're investing money towards stocks and everything. You may put $1 in here, $1 in there, and soon, after years and years, with that compounding interest, that turns into thousands of dollars and millions of dollars. And this is exactly how it works when you start to create these incremental shifts in your own life toward what it is that you want or not want. Robert said, better health, declutter apartment, become more financially stable with an emergency fund. And all of these are good things to work toward. When you start to write your goals, this is not in this discussion, but I just want you to make sure that you get really specific on what it is that you want, because that actually helps you to reach these goals more easily. He also mentions, though, here, and I want to thank you guys for sharing those things, because I know it's not easy to share what you're working on in a group of strangers. Hey, Bantu Viking, what's up? All right, so these habits can also compound negatively. So, for instance, stress. I see this a lot, right? You have stress in your life, and then you have the weight of the world and all these responsibilities, everything coming down on you. Plus, you're trying to get ahead and you're trying to do things and move forward. By all this stuff coming down on you and all the stress coming down on you, what it starts to do is become come to a point where it's not manageable for you. And because the stress starts to compound, especially if you don't see yourself or help yourself get out of a cycle or find help to get out of a cycle, what ends up happening is the stress starts to cause issues in the long run, that compounding effect that I told you about when it comes to high blood pressure, heart attacks, diabetes, all the things that we as Americans have chronic problems with. Also, negative thoughts. This is a big one. You can have one negative thought, and we're all not perfect, so we can kind of move through that negativity. But when you start to continue to have these negative thoughts and you start to think that you're never going to change and life's never going to change and things are worthless or stupid or you're never going to move forward the way you want, you start to get trapped in this mindset loop, this negative loop. And when you get trapped in this negative loop, it starts to compound. And not only does it impact you and your attitude and your behaviors about life, but it also starts to impact other people. And you start to see other people in different ways. And pretty soon there is this part of your brain that only filters that type of negativity into your life. So it becomes your experience. And that is why sometimes when you are in this negative loop and you only see negative, you think that that's how the world is because that's what you're experiencing, when in fact it is the compounding effect of these negative thoughts that just start to compound in your life and start to shape the reality of what it is that you experience. So this is the next thing that he kind of talks about, and it's how progress looks like. And he talks about an ice cube, and an ice cube is on a table in front of you. And right now it's only 26 degrees. So that ice cube stays the same. And then it gets 27 degrees, 28 degrees, and you still see an ice cube right in front of you. That ice cube continues to stay an ice cube up until a certain amount of time. And it's when the temperature turns to 32 degrees. And then all of a sudden, that ice cube starts to melt. And the 1 degree shifts from 26 to 27 to 28 to 29 to 30 to 31 seemed like they did nothing, even though they were causing these slow molecular changes to the ice cube. We were not able to witness a change until it got to 32 degrees, and that's when the ice started to melt and turn into water. Again, what this illustrates is that if you can start to think about some small incremental changes that you can make toward the goals that you want to achieve, what you can see happening is that slowly but surely you are chipping away at something if you can stay consistent and persistent. And then there's this flip, there's this turning point where all the work that you did, you actually start to see the results. And usually when you start to see the results, you go from those little 1% things that you had to invest, and the shift that you actually experience is something bigger. It's bigger than all those little 1% things that you did. It's just that you have to be patient enough to stick with it. So the last point that I'm going to leave us with for tonight, and again, we'll be here tomorrow, same time, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, going through the same thing. But the last thing that I wanted to talk about in this chapter is called the plateau of latent potential. When we want to change, we have this idea of how we think things should happen, right? We feel like if we do this, this, and this, then every day we should be getting closer and closer to our goal. So we as humans think that change happens in a linear fashion, but that's not how change actually occurs. Change actually happens when, in these little minute, micro little things, these shifts that happen that are sometimes, most of the time, undetectable. And until they are detectable to our eyes, we feel like nothing is changing. So there's a gap, right? There's a gap between what we think should happen and what we actually see happening. And he calls that the valley of disappointment. And it sounds like Brett has put a comment about that, saying the challenge is staying motivated. The challenge doesn't have to be staying motivated if you understand and you have faith that what you are going to do is going to make change. For instance, it doesn't matter if you don't see the change tomorrow or you don't see the change next week. You know that if you exercise 5 times a week, it's going to get you much closer to being healthy than not exercising at all. So what you have to do is not learn to stay motivated, because that can be a little bit hard. Sometimes you have to learn to have faith that even if you don't see with your own eyes that change is occurring, that change does occur. It occurs on a molecular level. It occurs inside of your body. It occurs in multiple different ways that you can't see. Those of you that are calling in a relationship or a better relationship, there's so many things that have to happen that you don't have control of in order for you to start to see the results and the materialization of that, which is, first of all, we'll say God, universe, whatever you believe in. I'm going to say God. God has to send a signal to a partner that is the kind of partner that you want. And they have to start to connect the dots so you guys meet in some sort of serendipitous way so that you can have a conversation and be open to each other and, work on both of your hearts so that you can create a relationship. And that's not going to happen on your timeline or my timeline. But what you should have faith in is that if you're working on yourself and you're actively putting yourself out there to have a loving relationship and doing the work on yourself that it takes to exude love and have a loving relationship, that you will have it. So you're never going to be able to dictate two things on what it is that you want to manifest. You could say what you want and you could say why you want it. That is your job. And then you have to be open to receiving it and having faith that you'll get it and acting in an inspired way, the way that you know how in these little 1% steps moving forward. What you don't get to say is how it comes and when it comes. The how I totally understand, because most of you that follow me are old enough to know that we have very limited beliefs, and some things that we thought should turn out one way ended up turning out way better than we ever could have imagined. So if we are able to dictate the how, we end up cutting ourselves off from these blessings that we could have that could bring something much bigger, better, deeper into our lives. And then the when, because we don't understand that there's all these little things that have to change energetically, frequency wise, and shift within ourselves, some of that work that we have to do, plus with the universe meeting us halfway, God meeting us halfway and helping us to create these miracles, then sometimes our timeline is not the same as God's timeline. So that's what I would say about the challenge of staying motivated. I feel like the challenge is not staying motivated for most people. The challenge is understanding how manifestation truly works and being able to be committed to something that you truly want. If you understand what I'm telling you in this book, or what I'm telling you, Robert, specifically in our membership, and then what we're going to go over in this book on how to create change. And I think that what you'll find is, because he makes it seem so easy for us, the challenge is actually taking action. It's not, though. If you only have to take a 1% action towards something that you want, that's not challenging. The challenge is you deciding that you really want what you say you're going to do, because you take actions every day. Robert, you don't. Let me back up, because I want to say this in a way that's going to make sense. The challenge is staying motivated. The challenge about staying motivated is because you don't understand that the motivation doesn't come before the action. You create motivation. You create it by being the push to cause that inertia to break up, and then you cause the movement. Yeah, I know you're just sharing, but I know you're not the only one, because I deal with this with my clients. A lot of people staying motivated, but I think that you'll find that when you break through, if you can hold on just for that little bit, you'll actually see what you want. And so that's what I'm talking about here. And then taking action, putting the stuff into practice is the challenge. Yeah, that could be the challenge, but if you I'm going to reframe that, because if you start to do an audit of how you spend your day and you find that you are able to do things, small things like turn on the TV, watch a TV show, if you can eat chips, you then, versus eating broccoli, then it's really not as challenging. It's the story that we tell ourselves about how it's challenging. It takes no more amount of effort for me to go downstairs like I'm a food for dessert and pull out ice cream than it is for me to pull out some watermelon that's already cut up. It's just the choice that I make to choose the ice cream over the watermelon. So I want us to come into this space understanding that to make these changes, hey Kathy, to make these changes in our life, it's not hard, and it's not going to be a challenge to stay motivated, because we only have to do something for a little bit of 1%. And if we could do this little 1%, you will see a shift. I promise you will see a shift. So before I let you guys go, is there anything that you'd like to discuss, or anything you would like to ask, or any questions that you have? I want to make sure that I leave us a little bit of time to do that. Again, we will be here every day, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, going over the book Atomic Habits. You do not have to have the book. I'm pulling out what I think is important for all of us to get back on track so we can finish 2021 off strong and move into 2022 with the knowledge and the tools that we need to make these big changes. Robert, commit to take action even when you don't feel like it, even if it's small gesture. Yes. And that's why I love this book, because I find that when we feel like we have to make these big changes, it is hard to stay committed, because you make this big drastic change that requires a whole bunch of your energy. And then you find that what you're experiencing is like these little micro outcomes in comparison to the energy that you put out. I think what is going to help us as we work through the theory of this 1% change is that you don't have to commit to something big. You just commit to something super, super tiny, and you will start to witness the magic that can happen when you change something super small about your life. And I think that when you start to see that, guess what that does? It causes compound interest or compound effects within you, because you start to say, oh, this worked. I'm going to try another thing. I'm going to build upon what I've already done. And you continue to get motivated. That's where that motivation comes from. And then you start to have more faith and more confidence in yourself to continue to add more things to your plate and to make bigger changes. But for right now, this is not going to be hard for any of us, because this is about learning how to make one little small 1% change toward one thing that it is that you want to accomplish in your life. Jim, thank you for addressing the comments. Hearing your analogy is what helps me to apply it. Yeah, don't make this overwhelming. We've all failed at something that we said that we were going to do in the past. And if we continue to make it harder, what happens is we keep saying that we're going to do these things in our life, and then we don't do them. And what that actually does scientifically is wires our brain to fail. And I've done a video all about this before. So what we want to do is, like, we're coming into this part of 2021 with a blank slate that we're going to think about change in 1% increments. So it will be easy. You will be able to commit to it. You will be able to stay consistent, because it's not going to require a lot of time and energy and effort and motivation, so that you get all spent and burnt out and depressed and frustrated before you even start to see the results once you cross over from that gap of what you think should happen toward what's actually happened. You'll be able to stay the course until those match up, because you're actually picking something that you know that you can commit to, because it doesn't take a lot of energy or a lot of thinking. All right, anything else, guys? All right, so for those of you that want to learn more about how to create change, I do a lot of work behind this, a lot of videos about discipline, a lot about motivation, because I think think people don't understand motivation enough. So I have a lot of resources that I've already done. And if you want to take a look at some of those resources in conjunction with coming here daily at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, then you can DM me your email address and I will send you some of my top resources to kind of help you dive more into putting this type of a theory into practice in your life. Otherwise, I will see you here, same time, same place tomorrow. Okay, bye.